I did a video the other day stating that Tulsi Gabbard essentially wasn't going to vote on this, meaning she wasn't present at roll call. She was an absent. She wasn't going to be there. Essentially, she wasn't going to make a vote on it. The vote came up for impeachment. Tulsi Gabbard voted present. Essentially, I'm not going to vote for either side. Now, initially, at the time that I did that video, she hadn't commented on why she was voting present. And I made the point, and I went through this kind of just basic, if it was me in that position, what would be the things that would be going through my head in that moment with her political coalitions and the objectives that she's trying to accomplish. And I asked the question, was this an act of political cowardice, or was this a principled position or political opportunism? Some people didn't necessarily like my phrasing of that, even though I think the phrasing of that is perfectly apt. Seeing as other people, whether I think it's cowardice or not, will consider it to be cowardice. Intro, one Jayapal, who comes out after I make my point. And the reason I made that point is because it was easy to see that people who are Democrats were going to look at this and say, oh, she's being a political coward. She doesn't want to burn either side on this, so she's going to take neither. Well, Jayapal affirms my questioning on this. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, subscribe. You can always support PayPal, Patreon. You know, the irony of sometimes getting these downvotes, and I'm okay with downvotes if it's something I believe in. There have been videos where I was like, oh, yeah, probably earned that downvote. But on this case, you give it to me if you want to, but I'm not wrong. Ultimately, you have a person, it's a political actor, trying to accomplish a very specific result in a competition that anything that she does can and will be used against her by her political opponents, especially a lot of those people in the party that she inhabits hates her almost as a religious doctrine. A vote comes up. Will you impeach the president? She abstains. Now, at one point, her position on impeachment seems to be she was against it. Then it seems to be she was for it. And I showed the documents in the other video where her position fudged, and then it became, I can't make a vote on this. I will punt. So on one of the largest issues to face us in a generation, she punts. Now, you may not like my characterization of it, but I don't know what other characterization you could come away with. She chooses to not vote for yes or no. She chooses neither. Now, neither is a choice. But my point is that choice is a rational choice. And some people may look at this and say, no, it's a principled choice. Whether it's principled or not, you will never know because you are not Tulsi Gabbard. But what you can say from a distance is she has a coalition on both sides of the aisle. People who are fervently anti-war that cuts to the left and to the right. And an issue comes up where she is forced to some degree to choose. Now, she's in the Democratic Party, and while she's in the Democratic Party, they hate her. A lot of them hate her guts. There is no upside to choosing yes. The party already hates you, and they're not going to hate you any less. There is a downside to choosing no, that you burn this right-wing element that comprises part of your base. Again, she's drafting the line between these 2 points. So what do? There's not much upside. There is downside. So I'm going to choose neither. Now, Jayapal says this is political cowardice, that you should have effectively made a choice one way or the other. You may hate the way Jayapal is explaining this from her particular perspective, but I can't say she's entirely wrong from her perspective. The catch here is what's going on in Gabbard's head when she's making that vote, not the characterization that Jayapal is kind of thrusting here. And the characterization could entirely be, this could be a principled position. It could be, I think he was doing something he had no business doing. By the same token, impeachment is just way overboard, over the table, so I'm not going to punt. The catch here is you could also come away from that particular disposition and say, I disagree with this process, even though I don't think he should have been doing it, so I have to vote no on impeachment because the question is, are you going to impeach the president? There's several ways you can come away with this, and it's somewhat subjective. So this notion of cowardice, I don't know if you can call it cowardice, but the question does arise. And what do you mean by cowardice? If cowardice just means you look at your political outcomes and you say, okay, this is a worse political outcome for me, especially from one of my bases, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to just not make a choice on this. Maybe. Perhaps. The catch is we don't know. And I suspect that it's a little bit of all of it. Yes, there's political opportunism in looking and knowing that you have a base of supporters that tend to be on the right, or that some of them, these guys are on the right, and that making a vote for impeachment, they may greatly dislike you for that vote, especially if you yourself don't even entirely believe in that vote. By the same token, if you don't believe in that vote, that this was a partisan act, that they went after him in a partisan way, it seems that the rational vote will be no. But that's going on value stuff. As a person, if you are sitting in your room sipping tea and they ask you, should you impeach Trump? You may say, I think he had no business doing it, but no, I don't think they should impeach him. Then that means the vote should be no. I hope you get my point with this. Yes, she decided to vote present, but present, you didn't have to vote present. Going by what she said, she could have entirely legitimately voted no, but she chose not to make that no vote because she knew it would have burned her in the context of the Democratic Party. I mean, for fuck's sake, these Democrats almost in solidarity voted yes, impeach him. And if she comes out and says no, she is in the presidential race, it will burn her in that race. Her race will effectively be over. And even her prospects in the Democratic Party later on in life, she's not running for office immediately after this, but whatever she's going to do, it would haunt her. A yes vote was the only vote she could have made legitimately. She chose to not vote either one. I'm just saying if she didn't agree with impeachment, the vote should have been no. I'm not saying she's a coward. I'm not saying any of that stuff. My argument is she's a rational human being that's looking at events and saying, what are my options? And you can make a case of what's greater and lesser. That's just being a person. This notion that she's in an event, but she is completely unaware and untethered to the consequences of her actions. I don't buy that at all. I don't buy that for any human being. It is very possible, however, that her principled position, the position of, I don't agree with this, dovetailed just with her political needs. I gotta be honest though, it's unsatisfying. It's unsatisfying. I would have voted no.
I really think it was not a smart choice for her politically, and I don't know how she could do that at the same time that she's running for president. If she can't make a decision about whether to vote yes or no on these articles of impeachment, I'm not sure how she intends to make those decisions in the White House. I thought that was disappointing. I like Tulsi Gabbard, but I thought that was very disappointing and, frankly, a cop-out. You know, these votes are votes of courage. They're votes of conscience. And I think that...
Right there, votes of courage. Now, this is hitting at this notion of cowardice. Meaning, she's going, yeah, it's a cop-out. She should have picked the choice. If she didn't agree with impeachment, she should have voted no. If she did agree with it, she should have voted yes. Saying present, nah, that doesn't fly. Now, some of this, she's angry. Because keep in mind, all of these guys voted in solidarity with impeach. Gabbard was the only one that voted absent. I think you had 2 Democrats that voted nay, or that voted no. But Gabbard is the one that's running in the race. And you heard her say, I don't think this is politically savvy for her. Why don't you think that? Why don't you think that? There's no upside to her voting yes. There's no upside. What's the upside? You guys hate her already. Do you think that these other Democrats are going to hate Tulsi Gabbard any less for voting yes? No, they won't. Do you think as a rational human being, Tulsi Gabbard doesn't know that? Yes, Tulsi Gabbard knows that as a rational human being. Do you think that it would burn her right-wing element that likes her for voting yes? Yes, it may get rid of some of their support. Do you think it would burn her left-wing coalition that doesn't support impeachment? Yes, some of them may dislike her for voting yes. From Tulsi Gabbard's standpoint, voting yes does not have an upside. You must understand what I'm saying here. There's no upside. Voting no does have a downside. just from less harm. What is the position that I take that does less harm? That position is present. Whatever I want as a person is secondary to her needs as a politician. I hope you understand that. It's not that I'm saying two different things. I'm saying them from the various perspectives. Whether you call it political cowardice, whether you call it a rational human being making the choice about what is in my best interest, I think present was in her best interest. Whether you call it calculating, all of those words are secondary to just the action of it is in my best interest to vote present. And again, that best interest may actually dovetail with what she full well believed, that I don't believe this should be impeachable. I don't believe you should drag the guy out of office. Calling it political cowardice, it's just the casting of it. I hope you understand what I mean. These are subjective castings. Gabbard would say it's a principled position. Somebody else would say, well, yeah, it's a principled position, but it also just so happens to be a rational position from your particular political vantage point. Somebody else may say, oh, that's a cop-out, or that's cowardice. Somebody else, you can name it, whatever you want to name it. What matters is what happened and what was in her head when she was doing it. And it is very possible that she said, I'm not on board for this impeachment thing, so no, I'm not going to vote for impeachment. By the same token, I'm not going to vote no either, even though I'm not on board for impeachment, because this will hurt me if I ever tried to run as a Democrat later on. It's just a rational position. People can call it what it wants. You can't get mad at them for calling it whatever they want to call it, nor are you in Tulsi Gabbard's head where you know exactly as a flat fact what she's thinking. Tulsi Gabbard made the point that, look, I couldn't get on board for either case. And I don't necessarily think that's the wrong position. Let me let Jayapal finish that.
Every single one of us, regardless of our districts, regardless of the politics, has to think about the oath that we swore to the Constitution and to the country when we took office. And I don't think people are looking for a present vote at this moment.
Well, the explanation she gave, just to be clear, for why she could not vote, she says, for impeachment, she said while she believes that Trump is guilty of wrongdoing, she couldn't vote yes because the process was too partisan and, quote, fueled by tribal animosities that have so gravely divided our country.
That's true, by the way. That's true. She's right. She's not wrong. I hope... I don't think Tulsi is wrong for making a present vote. She's doing what is in her political best interest. As a rational human being, and maybe even as a position of what she just said there. Because what she just said there is the way I look at it. I think you might have had no business doing this. By the same token, this notion of impeachment seems to be ludicrous. The difference here is, from my position, if you come away with that, you come away with that and say, no, I don't agree with this impeachment. This has been a partisan process. So you can come away with what she just said and still come away with this notion of a no vote if you don't agree with the process. So it's not that I disagree with her position. Her position makes sense to me. It's more so it's somewhat of an unsatisfying thing to punt on something this important.
I know what she said, and I don't want to, I don't want to continue to talk about her decision. I think she has to do that. I can just tell you that I think that this moment calls for us to make a judgment call, a moral call, a call of conscience to what we think is necessary going forward. The idea that it's too partisan, and this is something that Republicans have said as well, I would just say we have to put that on Republicans, to...
Yes and no. Yes and no. You can't just say it's the Republicans' fault that this is a partisan process in the way that this is going. Yeah, that's bogus. You have had one conspiracy theory go bust, and you immediately transfer it over to this not accepting the election results. I accept that the Republicans have a hand in this. After all, they impeached Bill Clinton. They wouldn't even allow Obama's pick to go through, and they decide this unilateral, complete against anything that Obama put forth. So it goes both ways. I mean, you might say Newt Gingrich was the start of all this. Whatever you want to say, at a certain point, it becomes both doing this. But in this very specific instance, it is the Democratic Party that has taken this partisan action of trying to remove a president. Tulsi is not wrong. I don't know how Tulsi could be wrong on what she said. The catch becomes, where do you come out after the thing that she said is true? She came out with, I can't make a vote either way. My argument is that's the rational position to take that does, from the standpoint of her, least harm. Jayapal doesn't like it because Jayapal was on board for impeaching Trump. She can call it whatever she wants. She can say it lacks courage, which effectively means cowardice. She can say it's a cop-out. To some degree, it is. And she can call it disappointing. But again, disappointing is only from her perspective of somebody who wanted to impeach Trump. From the perspective of somebody who's running a race that has support on both sides, this seems to be the rational choice. Whether it was a principled choice or not, I have no way of knowing, and I would say neither do any of you. She's a politician. She's in a contest that she's trying to win. She is based on two sides of the political spectrum, and she was put into a situation where she had to choose between one of those sides. The Democrat on that side that wanted to impeach Trump didn't like it, and so she wants to call it cowardice and a cop-out and all this other stuff. I can agree with her in the sense that I wish she would have made a choice. If you disagree with impeachment, you should just say, I disagree with impeachment, and that's a no vote. But I can't fault her present vote, especially being a rational human being. And the way she describes it, to me, is correct. So I'll leave it here. And yes, you're right. Kendrick, Tulsi's vote was better than the other progressives. Yes, you're right. Because those other lefties not just pushed for this impeachment stuff, but also voted for it. And now you have this comically ridiculous position where they can't even send it over to the Senate. I'll leave it here. I don't support this impeachment thing. So I am perfectly on board for her voting present. By the same token, if you don't support impeachment, it looks like you would just vote no. So it is not insane for Jayapal, from her positioning of things, to take a position that this is a cop-out and all this other stuff. The reality of it is, Tulsi is right. This was a partisan act that went to try to rip Trump out of office and did so from the day that he stepped in that office. So I know it sounds like I'm saying two things. I'm not. I am saying one thing, but I'm saying it from the different perspectives of the people involved in the process. Like, share, subscribe.